All I watch is sports. It drives my wife mad. When she wants to watch Married at First Sight, I want to watch the Champions League. And when it's a big game, there's only one winner. Sports are everywhere, and for a nerd like me, it's amazing to have all of my favorite sports and all of my favorite teams available at my fingertips. There is one problem though. It's not cheap. Football across the UK is distributed across two different services, Sky Sports and TNT Sports. If you want to throw in European football, I need to have Amazon Prime too. Depending on how good you are in negotiating these packages, the price for these services can get pretty chunky. A survey ahead of the 2022-2023 football season suggested that the average UK football consumer had to pay £105.92 per month to watch football. That is over £1,200 per year. It is also more expensive than most season tickets in the entire English footballing pyramid. That's just for football too. If you're like me and you like boxing, the MLS, and dare I say it, the WWE, you're gonna need even more. That is where these bad boys come in.
Jailbroke Fire Sticks.
30 years for illegally streaming Premier League matches.
Illegal streaming gangs.
Illegal streams through web streams or a dodgy box have ballooned in popularity in recent years, and it's largely down to two reasons. One, you don't need so many flipping subscriptions to watch your favorite sports. Two, it's a lot cheaper. If you're internet savvy, you'll be fine with dealing with a few ad overlays or a racist chatbot next to your stream to save you £100 a month. And if you're like my uncles, then a Fire Stick is like having a better version of Sky Sports. But what is the real cost of this? When people are legitimately going to jail for the illegal streaming of the Premier League, is the cost of the Fire Stick really worth it? Also, with the growth in people pirating the sport, will it hurt the sport long term? I'm Jordan. I'm on a mission to make passionate sports fans like you just 1% more informed. So today, along with research from Preston Chung, we're going to answer all of these questions and really try to understand the true cost of your free illegal sports stream. First though, it's worth really understanding just how bad this issue is. So strap in and check these numbers out. They're pretty alarming. A report from Cinemedia in 2021 showed that sports rights holders are missing out on $28.3 billion in revenue per year from piracy. $28.3 billion. You see, if you're watching a web stream, you're not paying for a full subscription. And if you add up all of those people and all of the subscription revenue, it's pretty healthy. And that was in 2021. It's a lot bigger now than it was just 4 years ago. On the regional front, the numbers are also pretty mad. beIN Sports, a popular Qatari sports broadcaster, filed a lawsuit against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, citing the most widespread piracy of sports broadcasting the world has ever seen. That's because a Saudi-based service called beOut sprouted up, showing beIN's broadcasts all across the MENA region of the world. beOut. That's funny. Elsewhere, remember the first Tyson Fury-Deontay Wilder fight? Epic fight. Again, take these numbers loosely, but reports suggest that that fight generated 325,000 pay-per-view buys in the US. Well, another report suggested that that fight was watched illegally by 1.9 million people. That fight was $75 to buy in America on pay-per-view. Times that by 1.9 million people, yeah, it's a lot of money. But I say that's a lot of money, and that therein lies the problem. It was $75 to buy the fight. Going back to my package earlier, to watch European football in the UK, it costs £100 a month. I like boxing, and I need to have DAZN to access my favorite fights. On top of my subscription to DAZN, I then pay for the pay-per-views on top. I like the MLS, so I need to have Apple TV Plus to watch American football. And I'll be honest, I'm impartial to a Royal Rumble here and there, so to watch WWE, I now need Netflix. This costs a lot of money, so the average consumer are starting to seek alternatives. And the good thing for them, the pirates are right there to feed them. I'm building a massive community here. My newsletter is growing faster than ever. Join the thousands of you in there who get these insights every Monday at 11 AM UK time brought to your inbox. Sports players, sports executives, and passionate fans just like you are tapping in. The link is in my description. Sign up for free today. Now, have you ever wondered how illegal piracy actually works? It starts with a source person at the top of the food chain. And these are people with legitimate access to high quality broadcasts. They're either cable company insiders or they just really good on the internet and can exploit some security loopholes. They get a feed, 1080p or even 4K, and they get it before it hits your TV. They then repackage that feed. Sometimes it's lowered in quality to reduce the data but make it easier to distribute. And that is then distributed to a series of networks through web portals, a dodgy box, Discord servers, Telegram groups, you name it. It's gone. They know how in demand and how valuable these feeds are, so sometimes they charge. But beware, they're also selling your data onto other third parties also. This is a pretty technical operation, but it's also extremely lucrative. And it makes you wonder, why can't the authorities just shut this down? Well, they're starting to. In July of 2023, a group of 5 people were sentenced to jail time in the UK for illegally operating a sports piracy ring. The henchman of that group was sentenced to 11 years in prison. A year later, in November 2024, an illegal Sky Sports piracy operation was raided in the UK where 5 houses were cracked down upon. That operation was generating £208 million in revenue per month. Crazy. A month later, popular American web streaming sites, Meth Streams, Crack Streams, Stream East, were all shut down by the feds, stateside too. That was a sad day on Twitter. It's crazy though, because to the casual, sports are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But that too increases the number of people who are illegally watching. The Super Bowl this year was the most watched Super Bowl of all time. There were over 130 million viewers, but there were also 17 million people who watched it illegally on a stream. That's a big slice of the pie. And even sports figures like Dana White are starting to take notice.
We go after piracy hard, and you saw a few years ago, we started prosecuting people. That's how you combat piracy. Start fucking prosecuting people for stealing.
And that strategy is pretty common, prosecution. If people feel the consequences, then maybe it will stop. But the thing is, it's hard to prosecute sports pirates. Imagine you were pirating Hollywood movies. There's detection technology nowadays where you can see a clip from the Avengers and a clip from my illegal stream, and you can detect if they're mirroring. But the problem with live sports is that the feeds haven't existed yet. So detection is hard to do. In addition, these pirates are pretty savvy. Tips and tricks to get around the feds are pretty easy. They can move servers overseas, away from legal reach. You ever notice sometimes how the URL for your stream just changes slightly? That's another reason. You can also encrypt feeds to make them harder to detect too. So even if a major streaming site gets taken down, 3 more just pop up in its place not too long after. If you've been a user of Meth, Crack, or Stream East, you'll know that they're not really gone. This then is known as the Hydra effect. You cut the head off a snake and 2 or 3 just sprout out in its place.
Cut off one head, more shall take its place.
If we carry on with that analogy, we basically have a 3-headed monster all fighting with each other. The sports, the pirates themselves, and of course us, the fans. Streaming sounds not that serious, but the impact of streaming is actually quite severe. Before we get into the impact though, a word from me. If you made it this far in this video, then thank you. You are a nerd like me and you are intrigued by the information of this nature. I'm building a little bit of a media empire here, and people often ask me how can they support? Well, there's 3 ways. The first is to subscribe to this channel. So many of you are actually not subscribed. It's fascinating for me to see. Secondly, please like this video. Before I made content, I had no idea how important likes are. If you could just like this video, that would be amazing. And the third thing, of course, is to subscribe to the newsletter. The newsletter is growing and you can get these insights more frequently. Now, I love sports and I think you love sports too. I don't want to see sports go away, and weirdly, the impact of piracy could actually lead that to happen. You saw how fired up Dana White was in that clip. Well, it's not just there. DAZN are clamping down too. DAZN currently own the rights to show League One football in France. They recently withheld a €70 million payment to League One, saying that they didn't do enough to help them crack down on illegal piracy of their League One broadcasts in France. How mad is that? I don't think I've ever seen that before. And to be honest, I understand why. You see, if fans don't watch sport through the broadcasters, then the broadcasters are just going to pay the league less money to own the rights. If the league makes less money, then the teams will make less money. If the teams make less money, they're going to be operating at a bigger loss than they do already. And now all of a sudden, the football ecosystem is going to start to break down. That's a pretty fatalistic view, but it's happening right now in France. And that is why a lot of leagues and a lot of sports executives are clamping down really big on piracy. For the pirates themselves, barring a few at the very top of the food chain, they're going to be fine. They're making a mint, and this is going to get more and more advanced, so it's harder to detect. But also, there's going to be things like cryptocurrency payments to mask payments and transactions that will help them even further. Longer term though, this is going to get serious. So you should probably think about sleeping with one eye open if you're a mob boss in the illegal piracy industry. The feds are coming. The fans though, like us, this is where things get a bit interesting. And ultimately it comes down to what type of fan you are. Shorter term, yes, cheaper and access to way more choice. But these streams are shit, man. You ever been to your mate's house to watch a fight and the feed just buffers every 60 seconds? It's insane. Recently, I was watching Manchester United's unbelievable comeback against Lyon in the Europa League knockout stages. Harry Maguire scored to make it 5-4. And my friends in my group chat, some of which who are streaming, were seeing us lose 4-3. You often watch behind time. And I don't know about you, personally, I don't like watching sport that way. But like I mentioned earlier, whenever I have this conversation with my uncles, they say the same thing.
I'm here to tell you right now,
we don't care. It saves them £100 a month, and that is all that matters. Most of this push towards a legal stream has centered around high costs of watching sports properly. There is an economic principle called price elasticity. It measures the change in demand for a good or a product to a change in its price. From what I can see, and this is just my perspective, sports broadcasting has always been price inelastic. If prices go up, the demand doesn't really change. I am a true example of this. The cost of watch sports has pretty much risen year on year for the last 15 years or so, and people have just demanded more and more of it. Now, I see that starting to reverse. The world costs a lot more to live in. subscription fatigue is real, and Gen Z, who we haven't started speaking about yet, they're just consuming things in a different way. Shorter attention spans, drinking less alcohol, watching less full-length sports. Here's two things that I see happening from here. The first is that sports leagues are going to consolidate again to having one or two broadcasters rather than a barrage. This has already started to happen in the Premier League. The Premier League have recently gone from Sky Sports, BT Sports, Amazon Prime to having Sky Sports, TNT Sports. They've gone from 3 to 2. It was once good to have multiple streamers of your rights. Now I think it's going to consolidate to reduce the subscription fatigue. It may even go to one if they launch their own streaming service. The second thing is not the shutting down of web streams or dodgy Fire Sticks. I just think the experience is going to get way worse. I think they figured out that they can't just get rid of them. More are going to appear. But if your feeds were really, really bad, laggy, buggy, or they were harder to find, it may just deter you from doing it and may inspire you to get the actual feeds from them themselves. So I reckon they're going to figure out a way to make web streams and dodgy boxes just a worse viewing experience than they already are. So regardless of your age, I leave you with one question. If you are someone who illegally consumes sports right now and you found out tonight that sports was going to halve in cost, would you continue to stream illegally, or would it prompt you to go and subscribe to a cable or a streaming service? Let me know in the comments. I'm fascinated by this entire debate. I'm Jordan. I've enjoyed putting this together. If you want to see a real life impact of illegal sports piracy on the French Football League, watch here. This video is crazy. However, this is just one issue for the Premier League. Another issue is gambling. Check that one out right here too. I'm Jordan. As always, thank you for watching.